The unexpected arrival Captain Zexlan of the Krofak Defense Force stared at the small transport pod that had just docked with their battle station. The pod bore human markings and diplomatic seals, but what emerged from it defied all expectations. A small, furry creature with 4 legs and a wagging tail bounded out, followed by a human diplomat named Marcus Webb. "Greetings, Captain," Marcus said with a warm smile. "I present to you Buddy, a gesture of friendship from Earth to the Deathworld. Alliance." Zexlin's 3 eyes blinked in confusion. The creature called Buddy was unlike anything in their extensive xenobiological databases. It had soft brown fur, floppy ears, and what appeared to be a permanent expression of joy. The alien captain had expected weapons, technology, or at least something useful from the humans' first impressions. "This is your offering?" Zexlin asked, his voice carrying the authority of someone who had survived the volcanic hellscape of Krothak Prime. "A small animal?" Marcus nodded enthusiastically. "Buddy is special. He's been trained for diplomatic missions and has an incredible ability to adapt to different environments. We thought he'd be perfect for building relationships with the Alliance." The other Alliance members present, Commander Vorthik of the Steel Scale Confederacy and Lieutenant Nexira of the Void Hunters, watched with skeptical amusement. They had seen many strange things in their conquest of the galaxy's most dangerous sectors, but a human pet as a diplomatic gift was unprecedented. The Deathworld Alliance's reaction. The Deathworld Alliance was not known for sentimentality. Formed by species that had crawled from radioactive wastelands, survived planetary genocides, and thrived in environments that would kill most life forms, they respected only strength and survival instinct. Their warriors could march through liquid metal. Their ships could traverse black hole event horizons, and their weapons could crack planets in half. Yet here was this small, harmless creature from Earth, looking up at them with bright, trusting eyes. "It appears defenseless," Vorthik observed, his scaled hide bristling with embedded armor plates. "How did it survive Earth's classification as a death world?" Marcus scratched Buddy behind the ears, causing the animal to lean into his touch. "With obvious pleasure. Earth might be dangerous, but Buddy here represents something different about humanity. He shows our capacity for companionship and care." The setup the Alliance leaders exchanged glances. They had heard rumors about human emotional attachments to animals, but experiencing it firsthand was bewildering. In their cultures, weakness was eliminated, not cherished. "Very well," Zexlan decided. "We accept your gift. The creature will be housed in our diplomatic quarters and observed." As Marcus departed, leaving detailed care instructions and a bag of something called dog treats, none of the Alliance members could have predicted what would happen next. They saw only a small, harmless pet that would serve as a curiosity in their fortress of war. Buddy wagged his tail and sniffed around his new home, completely unaware that he was about to change the course of galactic history. Strange behaviors. Begin 3 standard cycles passed before the Alliance noticed something unusual about their new diplomatic pet. Buddy had been exploring the battle station with innocent curiosity, but his behavior was becoming increasingly sophisticated. Security footage showed him sitting quietly in front of tactical displays, his head tilted as if he was studying them. Chief Engineer Mulger, a heavily cybernetic Vrex warrior, was the first to report the anomaly. "The creature has been following our patrol routes," he told Captain Zexlan. "It memorized our entire security rotation in just 2 days." Zexlan dismissed the concern initially. Perhaps it's simply curious about its new environment. But Buddy's actions grew more intriguing. He began appearing at critical moments during drills, somehow knowing exactly when and where training exercises would occur. When maintenance crews worked on sensitive systems, Buddy would arrive and sit perfectly still, watching every procedure with intense focus. The first incident, the situation escalated when Buddy, somehow accessed the station's central computer core. Lieutenant Nexira found him in the restricted area, sitting calmly in front of a holographic display showing the Alliance's battle formations. How did it get past 3 security checkpoints? Nexira demanded. Security Chief Kraxon, a 6-armed, Horthic veteran, reviewed the footage with growing unease. It didn't trigger any alarms. It moved through the station like it belonged there, avoiding every sensor. What disturbed them most was Buddy's expression. Gone was the simple joy they had observed earlier. In its place was something that looked almost like analysis, as if the creature was processing complex strategic information. The Revelation DR. Kelith, the Alliance's chief xenobiologist, ran extensive scans on Buddy while he slept. The results were shocking. This creature's brain activity is unlike anything I've seen, she reported. During what we assumed was rest, its neural patterns show incredible complexity. It's not just observing us, it's learning. The truth began to emerge through careful observation. Buddy wasn't just a pet. He was demonstrating capabilities that suggested advanced intelligence. He had learned to operate door controls by watching the crew, understood the station's layout better than some officers, and somehow grasped the basic principles of their technology. Growing unease, Commander Vorthik called an emergency meeting. We need to consider the possibility that humans sent us more than a simple animal, he said grimly. This creature has infiltrated our most secure areas without triggering a single alarm. The Alliance officers began to see Buddy's actions in a new light. His friendly demeanor now seemed like a perfect disguise. His ability to appear harmless while gathering intelligence suggested a level of sophistication that made them question everything they thought they knew about Earth's gift. The transformation, as if sensing their growing suspicion, Buddy's behavior began to change. He became more alert, more purposeful in his movements. When officers approached him, he would sit perfectly still and make direct eye contact, as if evaluating them. The most unsettling moment came when Buddy encountered a group of Alliance cadets during their combat training. Instead of cowering from their aggressive postures and weapon demonstrations, he sat calmly and observed their techniques with what could only be described as professional interest. "It's studying our combat methods," whispered Cadet Threx. Young Krothak warrior. Look at how it tracks our movements." The realization hit the Alliance leadership like a plasma bolt. They hadn't received a harmless pet as a diplomatic gift. They had welcomed something far more dangerous into their most secure facility, a creature that combined the appearance of innocence with capabilities they were only beginning to understand. The War Games, the Alliance decided to test Buddy's true capabilities during their monthly War Games. They placed him in the observation deck of their command center, where he could watch their most advanced tactical exercises. What happened next would be discussed in military academies across the galaxy for generations. As the simulation began, Buddy sat motionless, his eyes tracking every movement on the holographic battlefield. The exercise involved a complex multi-front assault against a fortified position, using the Alliance's most sophisticated strategies developed over centuries of warfare. Captain Zexlan commanded the attacking force, while Commander Vorthik defended. These two had never lost a war game to outside observers, and their tactical brilliance was legendary throughout the Deathworld Alliance. The impossible happens. Halfway through the simulation, something unprecedented occurred. Buddy stood up, walked to the tactical console, and began interacting with the holographic display. His paws moved with surprising dexterity, manipulating the interface in ways that should have been impossible for a creature without opposable thumbs. "How is it operating our systems?" Dr. Kelith gasped, watching the display in amazement. Buddy's actions on the tactical board were even more shocking than his ability to use the technology. He began repositioning the defending forces, creating formations that the Alliance officers had never seen before. His strategies were unconventional, using terrain features and resource allocation in ways that defied their military doctrine. A tactical genius within minutes. Buddy had completely reorganized the defensive strategy. His formations looked chaotic to the trained Alliance officers, but as the simulation continued, the genius of his approach became clear. He had created interlocking fields of fire that turned the defenders' weaknesses into strengths. The attacking force, led by Captain Zexlin's proven tactics, was systematically dismantled. Every assault was anticipated, every flanking maneuver was countered, and every advantage was neutralized. The simulation ended with the attacking force completely defeated, something that had never happened in Alliance war games. The command center fell silent. The Alliance's greatest military minds stared at the small creature who had just demonstrated tactical capabilities that exceeded their own. Buddy looked back at them with what seemed like patience, as if waiting for them to understand what they had witnessed. "Run the simulation again," Zexlan ordered, his voice barely above a whisper. They ran it 7 more times, with different scenarios and commanders. Each time, Buddy's strategies proved superior. He adapted to every change, countered every innovation, and demonstrated understanding of warfare that transcended species and technology. The terrifying truth Lieutenant Nexira was the first to voice what they were all thinking. This isn't just intelligence. This is strategic genius beyond anything we've encountered. The implications were staggering. If Buddy represented the intellectual capabilities of humans, then Earth wasn't just another member of the galactic community. They were potentially the most dangerous species in the galaxy, disguised as harmless diplomats offering pets as gifts. The question, as the Alliance officers struggled to process what they had witnessed, a new question emerged. If humans could create creatures like Buddy, what were the humans themselves capable of? The gift they had received wasn't just a pet. It was a demonstration of capabilities that made the Deathworld Alliance's greatest achievements look primitive. Buddy wagged his tail once, then walked back to his favorite spot and curled up for a nap, leaving the Alliance's greatest warriors to contemplate the terrifying possibility that they had just been outmaneuvered by a species they had completely underestimated. The search truth. The Alliance leadership convened an emergency session. Captain Zexlan, Commander Vorthik, and the other senior officers needed answers about what they were dealing with. They contacted Marcus Webb, demanding an explanation for Buddy's impossible abilities. The human diplomat arrived via quantum communication, his image flickering in the holographic display. When confronted with the evidence of Buddy's tactical genius, Marcus seemed genuinely surprised. "I had no idea Buddy was capable of that," Marcus admitted, studying the recorded footage. "We selected him because he was friendly and adaptable, not because of any strategic abilities." "You expect us to believe this was accidental?" Vorthik challenged, his scaled hide rippling with agitation. Marcus paused, considering his words carefully. "Perhaps I should explain something about Earth and how we developed creatures like Buddy." The Earth Protocol, what Marcus revealed next, changed everything the Alliance thought they knew about humanity and their home planet. Earth, he explained, wasn't just a dangerous world that produced tough survivors. It was something far more complex and terrifying. For thousands of years, humans have been engaged in what we call companion evolution, Marcus began. "We didn't just survive alongside other species. We deliberately shaped them, guided their development, and formed partnerships that enhanced both our capabilities and theirs." The Alliance officers listened in growing horror as Marcus described humanity's approach to biological modification. Unlike other species that used technology to enhance themselves, humans had spent millennia creating living partnerships with other Earth creatures. The companion network Buddy represents thousands of generations of selective breeding and training. Marcus continued. His ancestors were wolves, apex predators that humans domesticated not through domination, but through mutual cooperation. Over time, this partnership evolved into something unprecedented. The revelation was staggering. Humans hadn't just tamed dangerous creatures. They had created entirely new species that combined human intelligence with animal instincts. Buddy's tactical abilities weren't artificial enhancements or technological implants. They were the result of millennial-long biological engineering, the true horror DR. Kelleth, the Alliance xenobiologist, made the connection first. If this creature represents human biological engineering capabilities, then humans haven't just survived their death world. They've mastered it completely. The implications were terrifying. Every species in the Alliance had survived their homeworld through strength, technology, or pure stubbornness. But humans had done something different. They had created an entire ecosystem of enhanced creatures, each designed for specific purposes. How many species have you modified? Captain Zexlin asked, his voice tight with apprehension. Marcus smiled, and for the first time, the Alliance officers saw something unsettling in his expression. We stopped counting after the first few hundred. Each serves a different purpose, some for transportation, others for agriculture, many for companionship, and yes, some for warfare. The network awakens as if responding to the conversation. Buddy's behavior changed dramatically. He began moving through the station with new purpose. No longer the curious pet, but something that seemed to be gathering information systematically. Security footage showed him accessing computer terminals throughout the station, not randomly, but following specific patterns. He was mapping their systems, cataloging their capabilities, and apparently transmitting information back to Earth through methods the Alliance couldn't detect. The military assessment commander Vorthik made the grim calculation. If humans can create creatures like this as companions, what are their actual military capabilities? The question hung in the air like a death sentence. The Alliance had prided themselves on being the galaxy's apex predators, the survivors of the most dangerous worlds. But they were beginning to realize they had encountered something beyond their understanding. Buddy, meanwhile, had returned to his favorite spot and was playing with a simple toy, his tail wagging cheerfully. The contrast between his innocent appearance and his demonstrated capabilities was perhaps the most terrifying thing of all. The Alliance officers stared at him, finally understanding that they weren't just dealing with a clever pet. They were facing the advanced scout of a species that had spent millennia perfecting the art of turning any creature into a weapon. Emergency Council. Within hours of the revelation, the entire Deathworld Alliance leadership convened in emergency session. Representatives from 17 worlds, each having survived apocalyptic conditions that would destroy most civilizations, gathered to discuss the threat posed by humanity. Fleet Admiral Korath of the Shadowscale Empire, veteran of 3 galactic wars, addressed the assembly. We face an unprecedented situation. Humans have presented us with what appears to be a simple gift, but it represents capabilities that challenge our fundamental understanding of biological warfare. The assembled leaders, representing species that had conquered radiation-soaked wastelands, survived in the cores of gas giants, and thrived in the vacuum of space, listened with growing unease as reports of Buddy's abilities were presented. The strategic implications. General Vrex, commander of the Alliance's most elite assault forces, laid out the military assessment. If humans can create creatures with tactical abilities that exceed our own, while maintaining the appearance of harmless companions, we must assume they possess military capabilities far beyond what they have demonstrated. The truth was sobering. The Alliance had built their reputation on overwhelming force and technological superiority. But humans had developed something more subtle and potentially more dangerous: the ability to create living weapons that could infiltrate any society undetected. The reconnaissance report intelligence chief Nethys presented the most disturbing findings. Our analysis suggests that Buddy has been conducting systematic reconnaissance of our entire infrastructure. He has accessed classified databases, mapped our defensive systems, and somehow transmitted this information off-station, using methods we cannot detect or intercept. The implications were staggering. In just a few cycles, a single Earth creature had accomplished what the Alliance's most advanced spy networks would need months to achieve. The pet they had welcomed as a diplomatic courtesy had conducted the most successful intelligence operation in Alliance history. The diplomatic dilemma Ambassador Kex of the Void Hunters raised the critical question: how do we respond to this situation? Humans have demonstrated capabilities that make them potentially the most dangerous species in the galaxy, yet they have done so through what appears to be a genuine gesture of friendship. The Alliance faced an impossible choice. They could treat humanity as a threat and risk war with a species whose true capabilities remained unknown, or they could accept that they had encountered something beyond their understanding and adapt accordingly. The transformation, as the Alliance leaders debated, Buddy's behavior evolved once again. He began interacting more directly with the station's crew, but now his actions seemed purposeful rather than playful. He would appear at exactly the right moments to assist with complex problems, demonstrate solutions to technical challenges, and even help resolve conflicts between different species. The crew began to realize that Buddy wasn't just intelligent. He was actively working to improve their operations and relationships. His presence had somehow made the station run more efficiently, reduced tensions between species, and created an atmosphere of cooperation that had never existed before. The final understanding Captain Zexlan, watching Buddy help a group of engineers solve a complex technical problem, finally understood what humanity had truly given them. This isn't just a pet or a weapon, he told his officers. It's a teacher. Humans have sent us a living example of what cooperation and mutual enhancement can achieve. The Alliance had always survived through strength and independence. But humans had shown them something different, the power of partnership and symbiosis. Buddy represented not just human capabilities, but human values. The new Alliance. As the emergency session concluded, the Alliance leadership reached a unanimous decision. They would not treat humanity as a threat, but as a partner whose capabilities could transform their entire civilization. Ambassador Kex sent a formal response to Earth. We accept your gift with gratitude and request formal diplomatic relations. We believe humanity has much to teach us about cooperation and mutual enhancement. The response from Earth was simple. We look forward to learning from you as well. Buddy is just the beginning. The Deathworld Alliance had been forever changed by a single creature that had terrified them, not through violence or aggression, but by demonstrating possibilities they had never imagined. In trying to understand what made humans dangerous, they had discovered what made them truly powerful, their ability to transform any relationship into something greater than the sum of its parts. Buddy wagged his tail and settled down for another nap, his mission complete.